Despite his death at only 19 years old, Tutankhamun is the most famous Egyptian king ever.
Do you think why? It is because of his famous tomb, which was discovered with all its contents. Imagine finding 5,393 artifacts in just one tomb. The tomb's discoverer, Howard Carter, made an opening in the door to see what was inside. Then Lord Carnarvon asked him, "What do you see?" Carter replied, "Things." And frankly, Carter wasn't exaggerating, because when the tomb's contents appeared, they literally shook the world. Imagine that one of those 5,000 pieces is the most valuable artifact in the history of the whole world, the gold mask of Tutankhamun, which weighs more than 10 kilograms of gold. A restaurant with stained glass and gemstones up to this day, and even with the technology we've reached, the process of making the mask with that precision and detail remains a dark mystery. And the golden throne chair, which features a scene of the king and his wife with her hand on his shoulder and sharing one shoe to show you the love between them. Not to mention, the king's mummy was buried in 3 coffins inside. The inner coffin alone weighs more than 110 kilograms of pure gold and is filled with details of gemstones and engravings that the mind cannot comprehend, and many other artifacts and belongings that amaze the world and reflect the extent of the development and grandeur of ancient Egypt. But imagine that since the discovery of the tomb, and until today, these pieces have not been gathered together in one place. This is because they need a large museum. Indeed, a special wing named the Golden Pharaoh Tutankhamun was established in the Grand Egyptian Museum to display his artifacts together again for the first time in over 100 years since their discovery.
For his father's deeds and punished him by erasing his name from the temple walls. For the ancient Egyptians, the worst punishment was not to be remembered after death. But, glory be to God, brother, he managed to become the most famous pharaoh, and that's because his tomb is the only one that wasn't robbed, and they found 5,393 artifacts in it.
This means the discoverer was the first to enter the tomb after it had been sealed for over 3,300 years. Imagine a king ruling for only 10 years and having all these artifacts. So what about Ramses II, who ruled Egypt for 26 years?
What was in his tomb? The important thing is, when Howard Carter reached the tomb's door, thanks to the child Hussein Abdel Rasul, who discovered the first step of the tomb's stairs, he made a hole in the door to see what was inside. At that time, Lord Carnarvon, who was funding the archaeological search, asked him what he saw, and Carter replied, thanks.
And frankly, Carter was right, because the things inside the tomb amazed the entire world with their discovery. When Carter reached the burial chamber, which contained more than one sarcophagus and shrine, he was surprised by a large gold sarcophagus, but when he opened it, he found inside a smaller sarcophagus covered with gold sheets and beautiful pieces of colored glass. And when he opened it,
he found inside it another smaller sarcophagus weighing more than 110 kilograms of pure gold. And when he opened the smaller sarcophagus, he found the mummy of the king wearing the death mask.
One of the most important and famous art pieces in the history of the entire world, and one of the most important symbols of Egypt. It is worth noting that the discovery of the tomb was made in November 1922.
With the harm, and that was lucky for us, because the cancellation of British protection over Egypt happened in February 1922. Who knows if the discovery of the tomb had happened earlier in those months.
Tutankhamun himself would have been on display in the British Museum. All of Tutankhamun's artifacts are in Egypt. But the truth is,
not all of them have been seen. There are artifacts in storage that have never been displayed. The fact is that since the discovery of the tomb 100 years ago, the artifacts of Tutankhamun have never been gathered again in one place. This was because there wasn't a suitable place that could contain this huge collection of artifacts. But now, there is the Grand Egyptian Museum. The largest museum in the world showcasing the artifacts of a single civilization is named after the golden pharaoh Tutankhamun to gather the king's artifacts again. And for the first time after 100 years since its discovery. And of course, with the presence of the king, who for the first time again will be able to see his mask and sarcophagi. And his golden possessions, such as the throne chair. This masterpiece in front of you depicts the king and his wife Ankhesenamun with her hand on his shoulder. To show how much they loved each other, the artist depicted them sharing one shoe, each wearing one half, among many other artifacts and possessions that have been moved and displayed